very warm welcome and thank you very much for joining us this morning. It is Smart24 TV and we drive your business. Of course, this is the #1 channel for business concerning matters in East Africa, in Uganda and all over the globe. And of course, we bring you financial markets and I am your host, Anthony Sebali, right now. And you can hit us up on social media for feedback on Twitter at Smart24 TV. As well, you can, of course, get in touch with us via our lines, of course, and as well visiting our website at www.smart24tv.com to learn more. The show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa, your #1 private stock exchange. And this, of course, exchange is licensed by the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda. That is a body that was mandated by the government of Uganda to regulate the capital markets of Uganda. And the market is opening at, of course, exactly 15 minutes past the hour of 8 in the morning, East African Standard Time, and closes at 15 minutes past the hour of 3 p.m. Altex, in conjunction with MTN Momo, bringing you now bonds across East Africa on all your best interest rates. You can now be able to buy or even sell different instruments on the secondary market, and that's the debt market, of course, here in East Africa. And now you're doing it seamlessly by using your USSD code *292#. Altex East Africa doing something new. Now let's get right into the business of the day. As of course it's a Thursday, we coming to the end of the week, and of course it's getting more and more exciting on the stock market. However, yesterday, as we closed the Wednesday markets, of course, in the United States, the market started with a very huge vibrancy, and different companies like the Netflix company were making rounds of news on different financial media, institutions. And yesterday, however, the US stock markets tumbled at the end of the trading day on Wednesday. And of course, they were back and forth even during the day's trading as a 2-day rally spurred by a better than feared start to earnings season faltered. Now, the S&P 500, which is a major index there on the US stock market, sank by about 1.4% after the index gained more than 4% in the past 2 days. And while the Dow Jones Industrial Average shed off about 275 points, and that is about 0.9% on the daily trades on the US stock market. The technology-heavy Nasdaq Composite shed off about close to 1.5% of their valuation. Meanwhile, the benchmark 10-year Treasury bonds spiked above 4.1% on the US stock market. Of course, on the US stock market, we've been seeing a war between the yields on the Treasury notes in the US, of course, economy, as well as versus the stocks. The S&P 500, the Nasdaq, and the Russell 2000 are some of the indexes that are definitely have been gaining over the first 2 days of the week. And now coming to Wednesday, we're seeing a little back and forth kind of movement in the US stock market. Now, Netflix, who was a major gainer yesterday, was in the spotlight following a big earnings beat, of course, Tuesday afternoon that included about 2.41 million new subscribers, which was a figure that surpassed the estimated 1 million by, of course, the different speculators around this market. Now, more than double, of course, of Wall Street's estimate of about 1 million additions was witnessed on Netflix. And Netflix now is currently having about close to 2.41 million new subscribers, which is something that has not been seen on Netflix before. Now, executives also noted that in the earnings statement that the company, as Netflix, is on a path to re-accelerate growth after a challenging first half of the year. and the shares of the company surged by over close to 13% Wednesday afternoon there on the US stock market. Elsewhere on the US stock market, Abbott Laboratories stock fell by 8%, and that was after the medical device maker reported weaker than expected growth in the international medical devices sale due to the headwinds from a strong US dollar and supply chain disruptions and issues in China as well. Now, the shares of United Airlines Holdings rose nearly 7%, and after the airline reported higher than expected third quarter earnings results due to strong travel demand and a profit forecast for a current quarter that exceeded Wall Street's estimates. Of course, around this time, as we close the year, most of the companies are revealing their books, especially regarding the performance of the third quarter, the second last quarter of the year. And when companies are doing good, when companies are showing good books, definitely we expect more activity on these companies when it comes to trading on the stock market. Now, the strong reports from Netflix and United Airlines add to a batch of generally upbeat corporate results rolled out earlier in the week, and from companies including the Goldman Sachs and Johnson & Johnson as well. Although figures have so far come in better than anticipated of companies that have reported results of the third quarter to date, only 69% posted actual earnings per share above the estimates, below the 5-year average of 77%, according to the FactSet research. Now, and those of the topped estimates, we think that the earnings beat have come at about 0.1% above the estimates and far lower than the 5-year average of about 8.7%. Now, closing the markets yesterday on the US stock market, we had the S&P 500 at about 3,688 in the afternoon, and that was about 0.86% decline in the afternoon. And then the Dow Jones had about 30,366.35, and that was about a 0.52% decrease. The Nasdaq recorded about 10,648.24, and that was a 1.15% loss. The Russell 2000 also recorded about 1,718.08 at the close of the afternoon trades there, and that was a 2.16% decline. Crude oil went up by about 2.64% to about close to 85.01 United States dollar, and gold declined slightly by 1.35, closing at 1,633.5 US dollars, while silver also tumbled at a 1.21% rate. That is it from the US stock market there. Coming back to Uganda, definitely not so different a story. However, in the day, we had about close to 4 companies that traded, which was a slight decline based on the data for the previous day. Of course, the day before, if you followed the stock market, we had a very wonderful Tuesday trading here at the Uganda Stock Exchange. However, let's look at yesterday's trades in particular detail here to meticulously kind of break down some of the opportunities that are being presented, as of course we close in the final quarter of the year, a very, very important period for investing. And of course, looking into the future, you must be able to get your targets right now and make the next move bigger. Now, in the aggregate, we had about 4 participants, and out of these, we had 1 top gainer and 1 loser on the market. The gainer here, we're talking about MTN, who accrued about 0.07% on their share price. And we also had Stanbic Bank as another participant and also loser on the market. Stanbic Bank lost about 4.76% of their price valuation for the day. That is ending, of course, the Wednesday trades. Now, Stanbic Bank recorded the highest volume as well on the market yesterday, coming in as a top mover as well, which is a return to activity, beating Bank of Baroda and the rest at about a margin of 1.11 million shares that were transacted on Stanbic Bank yesterday, closing the day. Now, Stanbic was also followed by National Insurance Corporation, who traded close to 960,200 shares on the stock market, and Bank of Baroda came in the third place at about 310,000 shares that were traded. MTN had a volume of 117,041 shares that were recorded. Remember, this data is courtesy of the Uganda Stock Exchange. It's not our own data that we orchestrate or kind of put together. It is data authentic from the Uganda Securities Exchange. Now, regarding the performance of the index, looking at the benchmark, which is the USE All Share Index, the benchmark index paired or lost slightly about 2.81 points, and this was a 0.22% decline in the day's trading. Now, the index closed at about 1,258.43 points, and we are looking at a 1 week gain still, being registered of about 3.25%. Meaning generally the markets this week have improved, and that is exactly what we're interested in. Why are they improving? Definitely fund managers are getting into the market, trying to buy that stock before we come to the close of the year, because as we begin of the new year, definitely new trades and new companies. We are looking at big visions and goals that have to be met within the next financial year, within the next year on the calendar. Now, we're looking at also a 1 month gain as well of about 0.9% on the All Share Index. However, in terms of year-to-date loss, the All Share Index is still on a loss of about 11.42%, which we still have to make up for. That is in the monthly losses there. Now, the USE Local Company Index, which tracks the aggregate performance of the local companies here on the stock exchange, decreased also slightly by about 0.67%, closing at 271.53 points, making it a 1 week loss of close to about 0.33% and a 4 week loss of 0.83%. Of course, local companies lost because of the loss of Stanbic. We can put it to that. But also there wasn't much activity as compared to the previous day on Tuesday, where we had pretty much improvement in the volumes, improvement in the turnover for the day. But that's how the stock market is. It's up today, it's down tomorrow. You don't have to really be stressed if only you are a long-term investor. And that's what the show is all about, turning short-term investors into long-term. Of course, we do have speculators, those who get into the market and want to move out quickly with little profits. But we would advise and we would side with people investing with a longer term vision in mind. Now let's look at MTN stock here in particular. MTN yesterday gained about 0.13 shillings and closed at 185.0 Ugandan shillings on its share price, and the price went up by 0.07% there on the stock market and closed at 185.0. MTN, however, still has 22.4 billion shares, and their market capitalization is still well above 4 trillion, close to 4.14 trillion Ugandan shillings at the moment. The company gained about 0.39% in the daily trades based on a weekly performance, and in terms of year to date, of course, they're still on a loss and still counting from about 194.99 Ugandan shillings, which was their price at the beginning of the year, comparing it with their current price, 185, they're still counting a year-to-date loss of 5.12%, which they have shared off since the year began. Now, the company is ranked the 6th, however, in terms of year-to-date performance, which is still not a pretty bad figure or position. And most interestingly, still the 3rd most traded on stock within the last quarter or 3 months, dating back in the 20th of July to the 19th of October 2022. The company within this period has traded close to 10.7 million shares, and an average of about 170,000 shares has been reached within this period. Well, MTN is still offering opportunities for many investors getting into the market. It is quite a volatile stock, but still one that provides opportunity because it has lows and highs, but it has tried, and of course the company has maintained a very resilient, stock price. Looking at their stock price being maintained between 180 and 190 most of the times, and sometimes shooting up to 195 and 197 and 198 at some point. But currently, their share price is 185 shillings on the stock market. That is MTN Uganda for you, who was the top gainer, the only gainer who was registered on the stock market yesterday. Stanbic, on the other hand, was a loser after having lost yesterday's trades by about 1 shillings, and Stanbic lost about 4.76% of their price valuation as well. While Stanbic is still struggling to come up the 20 shillings mark, and we hope it will not go farther than 20 shillings, but still currently Stanbic is the #1 most traded stock in the last 3 months, which is a very interesting fact. But they have still lost quite some sum of money on their year-to-date performance after, of course, having shed off 23% from the 26 shillings at the beginning of the year to the 20 shillings at the moment. And so Stanbic still has a little more work to do. But in terms of trading and frequency, they're doing quite well on the stock market here in Uganda. Let's move quickly to Nairobi and have a look at what happened in the land of Uhuru. Now, Nairobi Securities Exchange yesterday had close to, let's see, how many participants? We had about 46 of the 65 listed companies participate in trading. And the day ended with 19 gainers and close to 16 losers on the stock market yesterday. And the Nairobi Business Ventures Company came on top of the gainers list there in Nairobi after having gained close to 5.38% on their stock price and closed the day with a price of 3.92 Kenyan shillings per share. Now, he was followed by Samia Africa at 4.81% gain, as well as Sassini Tea and Coffee at about 3.74%. That was gained on the price there of Sassini Tea. We had Uchumi Supermarket also coming as a top gainer in about 3.7% that was accrued on the company. On the losing side, surprisingly, the top gainer for the day before, yes, you guessed right, Sanlam Kenya came out as a bottom loser at an 8.5% loss and closed at 9.04 Kenyan shillings. Yes, that can happen. And, sometimes people don't really understand the fact that today a stock can be the best on top and the next few hours that could be at the bottom. It's very possible. Sanlam, day before yesterday, was a top gainer. Not only a top gainer, but the topmost gainer. Today, he's a bottom loser. That's what happens on the stock market. That's why you need market research. That's why you need long-term investment and all the other financial advice that you can get from different financial advisors. Now, Sanlam, as we have seen yesterday, lost some value. They're closing the day with a price of 9.04 Kenyan shillings. And Kakuzi also came in as a loser at a 7.14%. followed by Flame Group Holdings, who also lost close to 4.48%, and Kenya Power and Lighting Company, also Kenya Reassurance Company rather, lost about 4.04%. Kenya Power Lighting Company, for the second day in a row, came in as a top mover after having moved the market with a volume of 1.58 million shares. And Safaricom came in the second place at 865,100 shares, whereas Nairobi Business Ventures came in the third place at 198,400 shares. Regarding the performance of the major indexes there on the Nairobi market, the All-Share Index, and which is the benchmark for the Nairobi Stock Exchange, inched up by close to 0.07 points, and that was a 0.05% appreciation, closing at 129.80 points on the Nairobi Stock Exchange, representing a one-week loss still, however, of 0.42% and a four-week loss of 3.82%. However, the NSE 20 gained the second day in a row at about 0.02% appreciation in points and 1.35% in 1 week. The NSE 25 also appreciated at about 0.31%. That was the Nairobi market, a quite bullish market. And in East Africa, I think we are having a good time on the market, and I hope this lasts. But I want to warn investors who come in really quickly. You must watch the market. You must understand and make use of the longer term visions that you must have. As an investor, you must make sure you're investing for the long term, because short-term investors definitely come in and gain, of course, with luck. But long-term investors, it's almost 100% that they will gain. Now, today, in a special way, we are going to talk about cryptocurrency in the next segment. And definitely Mr. Barry is going to be joining me on set. And we have a little talk about regulatory frameworks for cryptocurrencies. Have you known about blockchain being used in health systems, in education systems and the like? Definitely you haven't. And Barry is going to be here to elucidate that just for you. We are taking a quick breather and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Smart 24 TV, we drive your business.
Smart 24, driving business.
Bulu magic is my joy. Bulu magic wange. Ayo, Salaba kumabala, atukuza nonyirira ochiraka nyange. Taisa bubi fabriki, chona chiri chigwa lwa bulu magic is my choice. Ono bulu magic ye wange. Ambie bulu magic is my choice. Hey, ono bulu magic ye wange.
Okay, we've got to go live now. Everyone tuning in to Supersport.
Welcome all over the world. It's time for the main event. We've waited a very long time, an age for some. It is delicious, glorious.
For football's greatest season, live on Supersport, only on DSTV.